Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob. How's it going?
Bob and I are here today, to do our narrowest 2025 ski comparison. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to this one, and this is a fun conversation. We have been talking about it a little bit just between the two of us, and when you get this narrow, it sometimes feels like there are fewer differences, but like as I was going through them and kind of looking at the difference in turn radius and price and all that stuff, there's some variety up here.
It's interesting because it provides a nice like counterpoint to the powder ski comparison.
Well, like almost the same thing happens there, just in a very different way.
Very different way.
Yeah.
So I find that entertaining when we talk about kind of the fringes of the ski world.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like the major themes here are going to be turn radius. You know, does it feel more like a slalom ski? Does it feel more like a GS ski?
Right.
And then price. Like price to me is a big one because we've got over $1,000 range in price here, and that's huge.
Right.
And like in some situations, I would say the performance, depending on how you define performance, doesn't just like linear match the price.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and it is an interesting conversation.
Yeah. So I don't really have anything else. Do you have anything else?
Not really. I mean, I think that most of these have bindings.
Yeah, only a couple don't. Like the head here.
That might be the only one. Even these two laser.
Those come with bindings.
Those come with bindings.
Yeah. And this comes with the plate on it.
Yeah.
So it like almost comes with bindings. It just doesn't quite come with bindings. But it's not like you have options for tons of different bindings on here.
You need a head Tyrolia branded race binding.
Race binding. Yeah. So anyways, that's I think that's it. I suppose I'll say that the range that we're looking at today for width is 65.5 to 75.
Yep.
So almost a 10 millimeter range in width. And we'll get started over here with the narrowest. This is the Atomic Redster X9s. Like we did last time, we'll use the scale, and in some situations it's, I don't know, it gets a little tricky when you have all the integrated bindings and plates and everything, and largely we're going to see a lot of heavy skis up here. So
yeah, in our wide front side, same thing, like 3,500 grams for a ski and a binding was kind of normal.
Average.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see a lot of that, but we'll look at it anyways. And we referenced this ski in that last comparison too as being the narrowest ski that we were going to talk about. I think we said it was 66, but it's actually 65.5.
Big difference.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. And this ski is awesome. It's very interesting just being so gosh darn narrow. Like it's narrower than a World Cup giant slalom ski.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. It does use Atomic's Ultra Power wood core. We get 2 layers of Titanal, and then we get the Revo Shock S vibration damping system. So it's essentially built like a World Cup race ski, or at least extremely close to a World Cup race ski. It's $1,099 ski and binding, so I actually think it's a pretty reasonable price considering the technology and performance you get in this thing. And it's pretty darn stiff. You know, it's like, I mean, I should just have you flex everything up here. I've been like working out too, but it's very stiff. And a lot of these skis that we're going to look at today are very stiff. We will look at the rocket camber profile in a second, just in the sense that it doesn't really exist. But it is 65.5 underfoot. Like I said, this is the 175, and it is a 15.2 meter turn radius. So although it's the narrowest ski up here, it's not the shortest turn radius, and it's kind of like right in between what I consider slalom and giant slalom, at least for us consumers, us normal skiers. Really just full camber. Like, I don't even know, I don't think Atomic claims that there's rocker in this ski at all, nor should they.
Right.
If they do.
No, they should keep it to themselves.
But it's a super fun ski. I don't recall if I got on it this past year, so the graphic might not match in the skiing footage, but it is extremely precise, as you would expect. It's like weirdly kind of easy to ski and not easy to ski at the same time. Like, because it's so narrow, it's really easy to like engage it and achieve edge angles, and thus kind of easy to ski.
Yeah.
But then like it is completely unforgiving. So
Right.
it is also not easy to ski. And you definitely feel that when you're on it. It promotes and it really appreciates when a skier is like perfectly strategic with their weighting and their technique and everything. And if you love that style of skiing, and many people do, you're really going to like it. If you're a little bit looser in your skiing habits and styles, and like say you just like to ski really fast and aggressively, I'd say you should go buy a Redster G9 instead if you're shopping in the Redster category. So it's just like, it's a fantastic ski. It's super, super fun to ski. It is an incredible tool, but just because it's so narrow, it comes along with like some challenges.
Yeah, I think your side of the wall also requires a specific preparation of slope. You know, like
yeah, sure. Like
you really need it to be firm to get the
Yeah.
most out of it. Similar to how when we talk about powder skis, you really
Need to be
need
soft.
to be
Yeah.
it to be soft.
Yeah.
So if there's any variance, you're not getting the full capacity of
I mean,
the
that's
ski.
a really good point, because like, you know, like we do it hundreds of times in a given season, just traversing over and getting first tracks of packed powder groomers on
Yeah.
Perry Merrill. And it's like, it's often like dream conditions, just like literally like 2 to 3 inch depth of perfect packed powder and
Yeah.
perfect corduroy. And it is so much fun. This ski hates that stuff.
I mean, pretty much up until you get to the 75s.
Yeah.
Like,
Because it just digs
They
in,
dig
right,
in.
right here,
Yeah.
and then it digs in through the softer stuff until you hit something, and you can't tell when you're gonna hit that thing, and then that's where the unforgiveness comes into
Yeah.
play. So, fantastic ski. It's just fairly one-dimensional by design.
Yeah, they all kind of need to be in their proper zone.
Yeah.
And that conversation will definitely be a bit more relevant on your side there once we get over.
Totally. I mean, like with these two in the middle here,
Yeah.
like it's a specific tool for a
Yeah.
specific purpose.
This is a 2024 head Supershape E original. We didn't have a 25 to show, so this is more of a placeholder, unfortunately. This is within head's Supershape line, the most slalom oriented, and one of the most slalom oriented of the recreational skis out here. Those two slaloms that you have over there, I would say fall into another level up in terms of closer to race.
Especially the head.
Especially the head. I think that's the outlier of this group, especially because of that plate.
Yeah.
But, the most of slalom oriented of the group. But this original is really interesting because it is kind of the most slalom oriented of the Supershape line. Still has the same construction as the rest of the skis. So World Cup sandwich construction with the wood core, poplar and beech. We get 2 sheets of metal and then a strip of graphene. What you won't see in this ski is the new cross-force carbon. So in the new originals, it does have an extra layer of carbon in the underfoot zone, and that will increase the torsional stiffness in that area, not like you need it. These are all very stiff and responsive skis to begin with, but adding that extra layer of carbon just takes it to the next level.
Yeah.
So adding that grip, adding that energy. We have this with a...
That's the PRD.
That's the PR.
I threw a loop for
Okay.
you there.
$9.99 is what we have this for with this binding on here. If you get the protector option, it's $11.49. But really fun slalom ski with really nice short radius. 170, we're at the 12.1 meter turn radius and 66 millimeters underfoot. So more flare in the tips and tails, and that's bringing that radius down. Like we talked about before, not a whole lot to talk about in terms of rocker. I would say that just looking at this ski from kind of a footprint standpoint, you do see that extra width at the very end, at the very tips and at the very tails. Really just gives this thing just an insane amount of hookup protocol.
Yep.
Like every little bit of energy you put into the original, it goes tip to tail, and just a ton of energy. Nice solid metal tail back there as well. Energy management circuit as well, so that's going to take out the vibrations. I like how they put a lot of their technology into these skis, and really just kind of serves well as a recreational slalom ski. People that are looking to be very precise and deliberate with their turns, but don't want Rebel's level of power, and
Yeah.
you just need to take it down a notch.
Yeah.
Because not everyone needs that.
They're just a touch more user-friendly.
Yeah.
And like, for the most part, isn't that kind of the point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless we're in a race course, and like, this ski, if you want to go on a slalom race course, this one's essentially going to be the best of all the slalom cut skis that we're going to look at. I suppose that Thunderbird could probably hang pretty well. But yeah, if you just love making short turns for your own personal enjoyment, there's a lot to be said about not going all the way to here.
Right.
Because you just get a little bit more comfort.
Yeah. And then like this thing has a very similar kind of character to the Magnum.
Yeah.
In terms of it being one on the shorter end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Just narrower overall. So it's certainly better suited for that firm snow. And kind of the other thing I'll say about the slalom style skis is that you kind of have to be mentally and physically prepared to make a lot of turns. Like if you get to the top of Stowe here and you got 2,000 vertical feet, that's a lot of turns.
Yeah.
So I think that people that are using them in either shorter lift serviced areas or just not top to bottom will have better success.
Or like a shorter duration of skiing.
Yeah.
Like here in Stowe, so many people just ski from 8 to 9 in the morning and then go to work. And like something like this is really nice for that, because then it like gets your legs pumping, gets the blood flowing, and then you're done in an hour, so you don't have to worry about getting super worn out. But yes, a lot of the skis up here will beat you up a little bit.
Yeah.
Not literally. You're not going to fall more likely than you would on an all-mountain ski, but they'll beat you up just in fatigue.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
just a lot going on.
We talk about like the dollar to turn ratio, so you're getting a lot more turns for your money with something like that.
Yeah. It's like how you think of your golf game.
Right. You got to get your swings in.
Yeah. The worse you are at golf, the better the value it is. Swings per dollar. Next ski up here, this is the Stockli Laser WRT Pro. Poplar and beech wood core in this ski. And then we get Titanal Tech Pro. So the top sheet of this ski is one of the sheets of metal. And then there is a second sheet of metal that runs underneath the core along the base. And I don't know exactly how thick it is, but it's pretty darn thick.
Yeah.
Almost looks like a full millimeter. I bet it's like 0.8. Do you know?
I don't know.
We should ask Stockli. They probably
know.
We'd have to get to the engineer.
Yeah.
It's really thick, though. Anyways, this ski is pretty darn incredible. It is 2,079 grams with the binding. The ski
dollars.
What did I say? Grams? That's the second time I've done that. It's $2,079. I'm just not used to saying over 2,000.
Yeah, that's a big number.
It is 3,270 grams ski and binding. And it is absolutely incredible to ski. I know there's a lot of people out there that, like, I've seen it in comments, I've read it and heard it several times before, that like this is just one of the best skis, period.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, if you want to just like do objective analysis of skis, sure.
Yeah.
Why not? This is probably one of the best skis on the planet. But if you want to like do subjective analysis of skis, it's a completely different story, because it's a lot of ski. And like, I really appreciate it, but I don't necessarily fully need it.
Yeah, it's not the best ski for me on the planet.
Yeah, and like there are, to be perfectly honest, there are Stocklis that I enjoy skiing more. Like I like skiing my Montero AX more than I like skiing a WRT Pro.
Yeah.
But the things that this thing can achieve are incredible. It's pretty stiff, you know, like we're gonna see with most skis up here. This is 67 underfoot, and we have a 14.8 meter turn radius. This is the 172. So back to kind of in between slalom and GS, which I think is a nice place to be just for a quote-unquote fun carving ski.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just looking to cruise around the resort and make some really awesome turns. There is like a slight amount of early rise in this ski. Kind of doesn't show up until you decamber it, but there's something there, which I think is kind of cool. And then tail is completely flat, pretty much completely squared off. And the graphic's not the same as when we did this, but I'll certainly never forget following Robbie Kelly down Hayride when he was on this ski. And that's, to me, just like a really good visual representation of what it can do and who is going to benefit from it the most. You don't have to be former World Cup athlete Robbie Kelly, Olympian, right?
I think just World Cup.
I can't remember. Anyways, you
Pretty good.
You don't have to be one of the best ski racers to come out of North America in the last couple decades to enjoy it, but if you are, you'll get the most of it. Do you remember somebody commenting on like that video and saying that he was bad?
Doesn't matter who you put up there. Everyone's bad in someone's eyes.
Yeah, we get a fair amount of critical comments, which is great. I like criticism.
Yeah.
But somebody did make a striking comment that like we needed to find a better skier than Robbie Kelly to truly show what this ski could do.
Yeah.
And like, sorry,
it's probably not going to happen.
Everyone else was busy. Yeah, I don't know. But it's absolutely incredible. It comes along with a hefty price tag, whether you're considering its cost in dollars or grams, which I would recommend doing in dollars.
Well, it's getting pretty close to the cost in grams.
I know.
Pretty soon we'll be talking about $3,000 ones. This won't be too much different of a conversation.
$1 per gram. That's going to start to be a conversation. The ratio of weight to price.
Weight to price. Next year.
Maybe.
This is Stockli WRT, so the non-pro version, and there's just a couple of differences going on. It is the same footprint.
Sidewalls. I forgot to talk about sidewalls.
Yeah, they both have the black racing sidewalls.
Phenol. Yours are phenol too?
Yeah, pretty sure. Can you tell a difference?
Fair enough. Stockli doesn't call it out on their website
as being phenol. They
that one has. They specifically call out this one phenol, but I do think you're right.
So a little bit stiffer in the sidewalls, just adding to that extra edge grip.
There's actually probably a lot of phenol sidewalls up here, if I had to guess.
Some.
Yeah.
Little bit of a downtick in price, although not much. $17.99 for ski and binding, 3,300 grams, so very, very similar overall. Construction-wise, the differences are that this does not get the metal on the top sheet. So we kind of think about it like if the metal's on the top sheet, that's the first point of contact from your boot and your binding. So you're just getting an extra layer of basically filtration out of from vibrations when the top sheet is metal. And we've talked about that with Storm Rider skis for years. Like, what is it that makes it so uncommonly smooth and quiet?
Yeah.
And that has a lot to do with it. So we do get just a regular top sheet on this ski. We also get an additional carbon application, so carbon steering control. We get that in the WRT. And basically there's a strip of carbon that's put in the forebody. And it is, when I watched the video, they seem to say that it was put in under pressure, kind of how we talk about the tubes used in Elan's skis and their tube light wood core. And so that's giving you a little bit better feedback and slightly more energy. They also get a tip protector, which your Pro does not.
Doesn't need it.
Doesn't need it.
I'm made of metal.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the construction differences. There's not a huge variation, and there's no difference in footprint. So we're still getting that same, what is it, 14.8 in the 172, 67 millimeters underfoot. So yeah, same application, same type. I would say that this one has a little bit more energy, and that one is a little bit smoother and more vibration resistant. So I think that kind of puts this into the more sporty category, and then that one is slightly more business-like and also just has, you know, that upper end feel and finish to it. So not a whole lot of differences. You know, if you're looking for that level of performance, a little bit more energy, want to save a couple $100, WRT is probably going to be just fine.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing wrong with this ski.
No, I might personally prefer it.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like a tiny bit smoother, sort of.
Yeah.
Less just like raw and reactive.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they're very impressive.
yeah.
All the Stocklis in terms of how they interact with the snow and how the vibrations move up through your body. Like you just don't feel anything. The only thing you feel on these is the G-forces that they create.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty cool, it's just a very interesting way of building a ski. Obviously, a super high level of quality.
Yeah, they're unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I think there is something to be said about being $200 less and like it's not like a approachable user-friendly ski, but
Right.
there's like a little bit of a difference in just how they feel.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just one of those personal decisions of like, am I going to benefit from the increased responsiveness of the Pro? Or will I enjoy the slightly smoother non-Pro?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't really answer that for
Nope.
each individual. Those are personal decisions.
Maybe you just like black instead of silver, and that's going to match your outfit more.
I can't pretend to approve of that decision-making process, but I understand. Yes. All right. So next is the Head Rebels ESL Pro. This is basically the closest thing we have up here to a World Cup slalom ski. In fact, I think the 165 in this ski would adhere to FIS standards, but please don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure.
I think it's a little wide.
It's not a FIS ski,
Right.
but it's really close. Yeah, you might be right. It might be a little bit wide. But dense wood core in this ski, 2 sheets of Titanal, and then we also get graphene, and then we also get that energy management circuit that we're seeing in a lot of head skis. So it's essentially built like a World Cup FIS race ski, and the performance is there to match. It's stiff, it's strong. It's probably ironically the softest ski I've flexed on this comparison so far, which is kind of nice for a ski like this. Also, when you flex it, it's a reminder of how cool this plate is, because the plate like kind of floats a little bit, which just gives it like a little bit of a bigger sweet spot through there. This one obviously doesn't have bindings on it, but 2,200 grams with the plate. Slap a binding on there and you're gonna get pretty heavy because this is a pretty robust plate system. And yeah, like you were saying, Bob, 68 underfoot, so I do think that's a bit wide, but we do have a true 12-meter turn radius on this ski. And this is the 160, and I do believe it goes up to a 170.
Yeah, I think so.
So if you want like a kind of longer than usual slalom ski, this is an interesting choice in my opinion. And it is $999 ski and plate. So add your binding and you're gonna be up to $1,400, and that difference in price to the original that we looked at and to the Redster S9 and also to that Thunderbird, that's kind of a reflection of the slight difference in performance as you are getting closer to that just real race performance in this ski. And it's shaped like a race ski too. There's just camber in this ski. There's no rocker. There's no early taper. If anything, we get full extended side cut in the shovel there. as you'd expect, and then zero. No, there's a tiny bit right at the end. I was going to say zero taper. That's as close to zero taper as you're really going to get. So true slalom ski. It doesn't really want to do much outside of that slalom radius turn, but that's fine. A lot of people love having a slalom ski. It's like one of the few things I don't own.
Yeah, and like every time that we get on a slalom ski, it kind of reinforces that I don't want to own one.
Yeah, you just don't need to.
Just don't need to. You know, unless you're focused on that style of skiing or looking to. I mean, it's a hard activity to pick up like as an adult.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
If you didn't ski race slalom as a kid, there just aren't a whole lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I should get a pair for Megan.
Right, she would probably love it.
Yeah.
She'd be like, oh, this feels like.
This feels normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because she turns so much.
Yeah, just a layer of comfort that I don't have on something like that.
Yeah, but really fun. I actually find that this is true with all of the Rebels E-Race skis. They're kind of surprisingly easy to ski. There's like some suppleness to them that you might not expect. So I think it's kind of cool. The performance is all there. There's no lack of performance whatsoever on the top end, but they are, like, for being a pretty aggressive slalom ski, I think it's kind of smooth and not like jarring.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the EMC.
Must be.
I'll give credit to the EMC. And then Bob, if you want to be Michaela Schifrin, this is the closest you can get.
I do, but I can't. Certainly,
you're like pretty far away physically from Michaela Schifrin.
Yeah.
Wrong gender, older, considerably taller, heavier.
Far less skilled. There's a lot of things working against me in this department, but not everyone. This is an Atomic Redster S9, so this is the closest they're getting to a competitive slalom ski outside of their race room. Built with the power wood core. We do get poplar and ash in here, and then we get 2 sheets of metal. We get this nice X12 binding system on here, so a little bit different than your plate that you got for the Rebels there.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of a nod to this being more citizens oriented.
Basically the same system as X9s.
Yep. It's got just that nice short turn radius that is, frankly, I find it difficult to keep up with, and that's what keeps me from really wanting a slalom-shaped ski like this. But we're at 68 and 11.9 meters in this 160. We also get their RevoShock steel plates here. And, as they get shorter, it's kind of harder to flex, but there's some roundness there. It's not just an absolute board.
You kind of need to bend slalom skis.
You need to bend them,
Yeah.
and kind of the more bendy they make them, the more accessible that short turn radius becomes. But still, it's difficult to maintain that balance. So the narrow waist, the short turn radius, you really have to be balanced. And that's why slalom, to me, looks so difficult, is that they're able to maintain their balance through such aggressive angles and just really super fast twitch turns.
Yeah.
Like, it just looks so challenging to me.
Well, and that, I think that describes the feel of that ski.
Yeah.
And not just that ski, but like all Redsters. All Redsters seem to have a very snappy, energetic, reactive finish to their turn.
Yeah.
Like, that's how X9s feels to me. And then, like, this definitely feels that way. And the G9 does too. What happens with the G9 is the longer turn radius, like, reduces the amount of, like, surprises.
Right.
Where that ski is full of
them. There's too many. Just under 3,000 grams. Length plays a factor in that. But we're not seeing a whole lot in terms of anything rockered or tapered. Just kind of a smoother look here than what we see in the head. So less of a flare out. I would say that that's just a little bit easier and more user friendly. And then in the tail, it is more of a plastic insert than the raw metal that we've seen in most other skis. I think your X9 is also of this category, but
yeah, I don't have a metal tail finish on X9s.
So just a little bit friendlier than the blockier metal in the tails of those other skis. But a great example of a pure citizen slalom ski that I think, like a lot of people that are kind of going for like examiner level, like PSIA, level 2, level 3, where they really have to demonstrate, cohesive short turns. That's something that comes in handy as well.
Yeah, we've had some local ski racer friends pick up slalom skis through us, and it makes sense why. Also, like masters racing, stuff like that. Like, there are recreational or amateur race series out there where you're racing slalom, and in that situation, you don't have to adhere to FIS standards. So why would you?
I didn't mention the price, I don't think. $1,049 for ski and binding there.
Yeah, so, I wouldn't say there's a huge performance difference between the head that we just looked at and this, and there's some savings there.
Yep.
So you don't get quite, like, not quite the same, but it's pretty darn close. And I actually think, like, that's a pretty impressive price that they hit.
Right. Yeah, and we'll see that with G9 as well in a few skis.
Yeah. And I was going to say that about Firebird, but it's sandwiched between two skis that are $150 less. But that I don't want to take anything away from this ski, and I still think that price is pretty good, and I'll talk about why. This is the Blizzard Firebird WRC. We're kind of moving more into a giant slalom world here with this ski and the next ski, and then after that we kind of go back into what I consider that, like, world of consumer carving skis that's not slalom or giant slalom. It's just fun. So this has a True Blend race wood core. So out of all the different variations of True Blend, this is the densest out of all of them, and it does result in a pretty darn stiff flex. One thing that is kind of a goal of True Blend is controlling flex in different portions of the ski. And I will say that you can feel it. It's not just like a gimmick. It's not something that they just put on paper. Even when you're hand flexing it, right there at the very end is noticeably softer than underfoot.
Yeah.
And I give a lot of credit to that True Blend wood core. There's only so much that you can control through core thickness. So a lot of these skis get thinner as they reach the end. That's pretty much true with any ski, but it doesn't just achieve the same effect that this ski does, so I think that's commendable. And then this has 3 sheets of metal in it.
Yeah,
Bob.
I love talking about the 3 TI.
Triple TI. Actually, like, I had to remind myself of all the TI in here, and as I was, like, making notes to myself earlier, I almost wrote down 2, but it does technically have 3 sheets of metal in it. And Bob, that's kind of where my mind was going with the value.
Yeah.
We've talked about how much Titanal can add to the price of a ski. So having 3 sheets of Titanal, that adds a lot of money to the manufacturing process. And it's $1,200, but you get an incredible ski and you get an XL14 binding. So you get, like, really good ski and binding for $1,200.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, it's expensive, but, we're going to see a lot more expensive here. We're going to see more expensive here. We're going to see more expensive with both Stocklis over there. So there are plenty of skis that go more expensive than this. So it's, like, weird to think that $1,200 is reasonable. But I would say in 2025, for a ski of this performance, $1,200 is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, none of the rest of them have 3 TI.
I mean, the construction and the combination of a 14-din binding, there's something to be said about that. Because a lot of the skis up here have 12-din bindings, some have 13, but yeah, it's an impressive ski and binding combo. And then shape, we kind of talked about it being more of a giant slalom ski. Not much rocker up here at all. There's, again, maybe like a slight amount of early rise, but I don't know that I would really call it rocker. And then kind of a flatter, squared off tail, as you'd expect. And then this ski, this is the 175. We're at a 17.5 meter turn radius, which you might be sitting there watching this video, rolling your eyes at me, saying, that's not giant slalom. And I know, but it kind of is to me.
Yeah.
Like, when I want to make giants, what I consider giant slalom turns, the sweet spot for me as a skier is like 17 to 20 at most. And then when you go over 20, it starts to be a little bit more challenging. Like, I can do it. Like, I have that K2 Disruption TI2, and that's like 21.9 or something. Yeah. And I can do it, but it just takes a lot more work. So, correct, this is not like anywhere near FIS GS radius, but for us mere mortals, this is pretty perfect in my opinion.
Right. If we were to get on a ski of that construction that had a 30 meter turn radius,
yeah,
whatever it is these
whatever,
days,
yeah.
It would not be very fun or engaging.
It wouldn't look very good.
No.
unless you like footage of people just skiing really straight and really fast.
Well, some people do, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then this, in my opinion, this is another great consumer GS ski.
Yeah, this is the G9. It's a similar conversation to the S9 because it's the same construction. So power wood core, poplar and ash in this thing. And we get that RevoShock steel as well. And just a really strong, fun, kind of straighter overall cut. Again, it's not like we're talking about FIS level turn shapes here. 18.2 here in the 177, so slightly longer than your WRC. And like you can kind of tell, like when you're I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but there's just less
it's really
tip shape here. It's a very straight look. So the combination of that straighter cut and the construction allow it to be incredibly just smooth in those longer turns. You know, something like this Hero LT from Rossignol here is kind of in the same breadth where the intention is to open it up a little bit, that you're not getting just drastically or dramatically pulled into a turn like some of these more slalom-oriented skis, that you're able to put a little bit more of your influence. And your TI2 from K2 there comes to mind as well, where, yeah, you're really kind of in that driver's seat and aiming the ski where it wants to go, as opposed to being really locked into just a consistent S-shaped turn down the fall line. Skis like this G9 are able to open it up and be more creative.
I don't know that I've ever actually truly done a stivot.
Yep.
But I think I come close. and I feel like that's the type of thing that like sometimes you have to do on those longer radius skis.
I mean, I've skidded turns on a G9.
Yeah, it looks different than when Ryan Daniel does it, though. I don't know what it is.
Well, it's because I'm not doing it on purpose, as it's intended to do. It just happens.
But that's when you were saying steering. Yeah, that's where my mind went, and they do require a little bit more steering.
Yeah, but skis like this, they can be broken free from that radius easier than a more slalom-oriented ski that really just wants to stick to that arc.
Yeah,
like this. You know, we talked about it with wide frontside. You had brought up a good point of how can skis like this fall into the playful category, but it really comes down to how you're able to manipulate the ski to make different types of carved turns.
Yeah.
And even like a short radius, a short swing skidded turn, you know, I mean, it counts as more of a dynamic carve than something that's more kind of loping edge to edge. So there are ways to get creative and playful with narrow frontside skis, and having a longer turn radius and a straighter overall cut, I think puts it a little bit more into that category. But super thick underfoot, no lack of edge grip. You know, I remember following our friend Greg down our Lord to North Slope run on a pair of these, who's got a collegiate race background and thinking, well, there's going to be good feedback on this ski from Greg.
I think he loved it, didn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah.
So, you know, when a former racer gets on a ski like this, it's really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Price $1,049, so same as the S9, you know, makes sense. Same construction, same binding, same technology, which I think, like we were talking about before, not a bad deal. For this level of performance and quality, I think that's...
It's not a bad deal at all.
That's right.
If anything, it's a very good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specific, though. You know, I mean, again, we're dealing with very specific things.
Yeah.
And what the skis do well and what they excel in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say the same is true for the next few skis, but the conversation's just a little different. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like the Multigara does a ton of different things, but I don't know. It's just like a little bit more, for me at least, it's easier to get more reward out of it.
It's just it's an intrinsically rewarding ski.
Yes. Excellent word choice, Bob.
Thanks.
So this is the Nordica Dobermann Multigara DC. This is basically built like a Dobermann GSR, although in this ski, in the Multigara, we get a zinc and aluminum plate underfoot, and that's really the only difference from a construction perspective. The shape is considerably different than a GSR, but we do get a pretty dense wood core. We get 2 sheets of metal, and we get that double core technology. So the core itself is there's 2 of them stacked on top of each other, and it's pretty darn cool. And we've seen this kind of construction trickle into a lot of Nordica's skis, and just like visually, it's fun to look at.
Yeah.
I like things that are fun to look at.
Well, it's funny how they go from vertical stringers to horizontal ones.
Yeah.
Just overnight, they're like, nope, this is better.
Yep.
And we talk about it too. Like, these are incredibly smooth and stable skis.
They're incredibly
like,
smooth.
What is it about them?
Yeah, and like, not to get too ahead of myself, but like, if you want kind of Stockli-esque performance and feel, and you want to save like a tiny bit of money,
yeah,
you might consider a Multigara here, because it's not far behind. If anything, it can compare pretty closely to a lot of Stocklis, and it's only $1,500, not $2,000.
What a deal.
What a deal. 3,100 grams on our scale here. Pretty stiff flex, but there's actually a little bit of roundness to this ski's flex, and I kind of feel like this ski has some roundness to the way that it skis as well. Get the turn radius here. Yeah, so we're up to 70 underfoot, and this ski is back to a 14.8 meter turn radius, which for me at least is such a fun place to be. But aside from that, there's really nothing interesting about its shape. There's no rocker. It's just full camber underfoot with a pretty squared off wide tail back there. But yeah, incredibly easy to ski. This is one that our friends from Nordica were pretty excited when they first introduced it to us, and we were pretty much immediately excited about skiing it. I think from day one when I skied this thing, I was like, that's a blast.
Yeah.
And I think I asked Nordica if I could have one, and they were like, no.
No.
They don't make very many. I think there's only like a couple hundred that are brought in to the country, maybe more this year. But yeah, they don't make a ton of them, and they're not cheap. But if you're looking for kind of that premium Nordica on-trail carving experience without feeling like a race ski from a shape perspective, this one's great. You've got a Spitfire 74 down there, and compared to that ski, I would say this does tick up a notch or two in the precision and reward category, and you end up spending $500 to get that. Yeah. So not free.
No, and I just remember like the confidence in a carved turn on that.
Yeah,
just walked into the snow.
Yeah, but it's like easy to control because it's a short enough radius that you don't feel like you're just running away.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's like, it's pretty easy to ski while still achieving just about all the performance that anybody could ever ask for.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Sharp looking too. I
It really
like how
is.
they kind of keep the black and white theme through that ski.
Yeah.
Back to Stockli Land here. I'll take the flatter one there. This is the Laser SX.
Skier cross.
$1,699. We're at 70 millimeters underfoot still. So your Nordica, this Stockli, and the next two are 70s. And it's interesting how they kind of change in that range. This SX is one of the lighter and more mobile skis in this range. 3,130 grams on the scale there with your binding. And did I mention the price? $1,699. So we're back up into pretty premium quality pricing. With that, you do get Stockli's quality and construction. So again, totally smooth, incredibly quiet. This ski, as opposed to the other lasers, does have a slightly different wood core. So as opposed to just poplar and beech stringers like we see in the SC and in your WRTs over there, the SX has poplar along the sides and then a mix of poplar and beech in the middle. So a little bit lighter and more flexible. And Jeff, you'll like to flex this one. A little bit more flex in the tail. Sorry, the shovel.
That's why I got excited and said skier cross in a funny tone because I don't know. That is like the Laser SX is their skier cross ski.
Yeah.
Like the FIS version.
The FIS version.
Yeah. So like this has always felt like the consumer skier cross ski to me. And then that just puts me in like a park mindset where I'm like, this is a park carving ski.
Right, you're going to ski
like,
this in the park?
Isn't really true, but it is like a little bit more playful. Doesn't feel like the right word, but there's a little bit of like fun factor to it.
Yeah, no, we can talk about that playfulness, and part of the reason that it has it is the turtle shell 2.0. So turtle shell are the wave-like slits cut in the upper sheet of metal. The 2.0 basically means that it's in both tips and tails. So you do get a little bit of torsional flex in the ends of the ski, and that really helps with the easier access to a carved turn. So you're getting that smoothness, and when you start to open it up, it doesn't flex as much. So at slower speeds and in shorter turns where you're kind of manipulating the turn radius a bit more, that's where that technology comes into play. So you do get that playfulness in a carved turn for sure. It certainly helps bring people kind of up a level. The ski is accessible for an intermediate, but it's certainly going to be, an expert skier, a former racer is going to have a much easier time finding the ceiling on something like this than they would on your WRTs over there. But yeah, really, really fun. 16 meters, not sure if I mentioned that, in the 173. Again, kind of mixing that slalom and GS. Multi-turn to me doesn't necessarily mean multi-radius like we think of a Volkl with like a 3D or a 4D radius. So multi-turn, I think Rossignol does a nice job with their MT kind of naming it that because it's capable. Yeah. The capability of making both slalom and GS turns exists, whereas in something a little bit more GS oriented like your G9 or the LT here, it's not quite as easy to get clean carved turns out of both. Yep. But the SX, I think, falls right into that category, and especially with that slightly softer flex in the shovel and that turtle shell technology, I think it makes sense. Jeff, in Stockli's catalog, they mentioned tail rocker. What do you think?
Sure.
I appreciate their attempts.
Yeah, there's 7 centimeters of tail rocker.
Yeah. And just a slight amount in the tip. It's not just pushing down, like clawing down like we see in some of those more slalom-oriented skis.
This always feels like the ski that claws down to me, the X9s.
Yeah, whereas the flex and the slight rise
Yeah.
in this SX here makes it slightly more amenable, and I think we're starting to enter the part on the wall where when the groomers cease to be bulletproof, this will be much more amenable to those situations.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a big plus for the SX is if you want that sporty and fun and engaging carving ski, but you're not on bulletproof snow all the time. This is kind of the best option so far, I would say.
Yeah. You know what? It might be my favorite laser. In fact, I think it is my favorite laser.
Yeah, because it's a park ski.
Yeah.
It's meant for jumps.
Yeah, it's Stockli's park ski.
Yeah.
They don't make a Rotor 84 anymore. Next ski up here, this is the Atomic Redster X7. This is a slightly different conversation than we've been having so far. I would say on everything that we've talked about so far, it is an expert level ski. I know you talked about approachability with the Laser SX, but it's also $1,700.
Yep.
And like not many progressing intermediates are buying a $1,700 ski, and it certainly can satisfy an expert. So I would say everything so far has been advanced expert level. And this Redster X7, I think it's way more appropriate for an intermediate level skier, someone who's less aggressive, somebody who's still progressing and building their technique, and it's reflected in the price. We're at $799.95 here, and it's it's like weird. You know, we're going narrowest to widest here, and it's interesting how skis fall, but really like the best two skis to compare to this would be the two skis that we'll end with that are also both $799 and offer similar levels of performance. So compared to the X9s that we started with, that one had that ultra power wood core. This is just a power wood core. That had 2 sheets of metal. This has 1 sheet of metal. That had RevoShock S. This has RevoShock C. So all of those things are just kind of taking the performance down a notch and also helping to bring the price down along with it. And it's reflected in the performance too. It's only 2,670 grams on the scale, which is like, I don't remember exactly, but probably the lightest thing that we've looked at so far.
It's a much lighter binding system and plate as well.
Exactly, yeah.
It's just more plastic-y than the metal full X12s.
Yep. And a slightly softer flex pattern too. I mean, definitely noticeably softer than we saw in X9s. So lighter build, softer flex pattern. It's much easier to bend. It's not as fatiguing over a long day of skiing. So it's just going to be better for somebody who's not quite to the level to justify some of these skis further over to the left here. It is 70 underfoot, like you mentioned, Bob, and we're 15.5 meter radius in this 176, which, again, right in that kind of nice sweet spot, in my opinion, for a consumer kind of, I don't know that daily driver is the right phrase for a ski like this, but a ski that you're going to take out a lot. I think that 16 meter turn radius is a really fun place to be. And yeah, I think like this ski is one that it can surprise people. I think it's often, you know, skiers, we've had conversations like this before, skiers are a decent amount ego driven, and I think there's a fair amount of people out there that like slightly overestimate their own ability and just completely overlook this ski.
Well, yeah, 9 is better than 7.
I know. It's exactly what I mean. Yeah, but it's tough, you know, and I don't fault anybody for wanting a better or quote-unquote better ski, but I think there's something to be said about situations where this would arguably be a better ski for somebody.
Yeah.
Again, look at shape quickly here, but there's really not much rocker, maybe a tiny bit of early rise when you decamber, but not really. And then there's not much in the tail either. So really the forgiveness of this ski comes from having a slightly softer flex pattern and being a little bit lighter.
Yeah, and I'll bring up bumps with these last two skis there. We're I wouldn't bring it up with the other ones so much, where the lightness and the mobility of the Redster X7 and then the slightly more flexible tip of the SX are bringing moguls into the conversation. No, you're not there yet?
I'm not going into the moguls on any ski on this fall.
Well, some people are.
For sure.
But, you know, those are nice because they're still narrow. You know, like once you start getting to this side, you might
They're
think
a little
like,
clunky.
yeah. So having that narrowness
No,
just makes it easy to get from edge to edge. But yeah, I didn't bring it up till now on purpose.
You know what I would take this and a 150.
That's your bump ski?
Through the troughs.
Yeah.
We're making slalom turns through the troughs. Actually sounds
I mean, good luck. Like you're gonna loop out at some point pretty well.
I won't loop out. I'll just gap to the next mogul and then make a slalom turn there.
All right. I'm looking forward to this video. Moving on to Blizzard. This is the Thunderbird R13. So we have talked about the R15, the WB, the wider body version. So it's 76 millimeters underfoot. The WB represents the wider of the front side skis and a little bit more of a longer turn shape, whereas this R13 at 70 millimeters underfoot represents more of the slalom cut. So they're basically taking the footprint of the R15 and paring it down, and they're reducing the turn radius as well. So we are, oh goodness, 13.5 meters here in the 170.
Close.
Yeah, shorter. So with that narrower waist at 70 underfoot, you're just getting increased torsional stiffness, better edge grip on firm snow, and just a narrower footprint overall to make those shorter and cleaner turns. But this one does have their True Blend pieced wood core. So like you were saying with, which one there? The WRC.
Yeah, this is True Blend Race.
True Blend Race. This is True Blend pieced, so they are altering the blend of beech and poplar stringers, keeping this one still much more in kind of the high-end recreational feel. So they're not trying to put like upper-end recreational skiers out on this ski. They're trying to bring them in and just make the shovels, especially and through the tails, where there's less beech and more poplar along the sides. That just makes it easier to get into and out of turns. But underfoot, where you get the denser beech and through the central cord for better stability and absorption vibration, that's where having those sophisticated wood cores that they, like you said, put a lot of thought into, that it just doesn't find its way into the ski. They're trying to create a certain characteristic, and that's where the sophistication of that wood core comes in handy. But we do get 2 sheets of metal in this as well, and then active carbon armor. We discussed this binding kind of accessory, this plate accessory, the other day with the R15, and how it's kind of just a nice floating plate of carbon that will kind of, that claw mentality that we talked about in the tips and tails. That's what this does just on the fore and aft of the binding system. So it's really keeping the central portions of the skis, fore and aft of your binding, really glued to the snow.
We're going to talk about counterflexing in the next ski as an intended benefit of the technology, and I would say the same is true with that ski, with that active carbon armor. Just
internal versus external, basically.
Yeah, but it's kind of reducing the amount that the ski is going up and down.
3,200 grams ski and binding on the scale here, and we are at $1199.95 here. Did I have that right? Yeah.
What?
$1199.95. It's the same price as the Hero, so I got confused.
You can't read my writing?
I can't read much these days. And
it's like pretty legible.
Yeah, no, you did great.
It is smallish.
It's my own eyes' fault.
People were remarking on the 9th hole yesterday at the fact that I could still see the golf ball on the green after Aaron hit his tee shot. It's like, no, it's 10 feet right. And they were like, no, it's not. And I was like, yeah, I can see it. Forgive me for having good eyesight.
No, mine still works. I bet I could see the golf ball, but I can't see that.
Fair enough.
Not a whole lot to talk about with rocker taper. Even when you decamber it, there's not nothing really pops out. And then nice and flat and square in the tail, allowing you that nice tip to tail edge contact. Very smooth overall, and really fun for kind of an aspiring slalom turn skier that wants kind of more of an accessible feel. Like, I just feel like these skis have access to them where anything narrower or even some of the burlier builds over here don't quite have. So it's a nice blend of shape and construction in this ski.
Yeah, I agree. And you see a lot of Thunderbird R15s out on the hill. You don't see nearly as many as those.
I was going to bring that up. Like, I don't think I've ever seen an R13 in the wild.
I just don't think they've been like marketed as well.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's part our fault. I don't know. But it's a great ski.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're, the difference is 6 millimeters in width. So most people are going to kind of gravitate
that wider
towards the wider one.
I mean, I did kind of talk about that in the last video, that like for me personally, there's rarely a need to go narrower into this world. Yeah. But there are a lot of skiers that are very different than me. So.
But I also think that something like this at 71, I think.
Yeah. I was excited to get here. Does yours have the dimensions?
They're in the middle.
That's a weird
71.
place to put them.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so this is the Rossignol Hero Elite LT TI. We've got 2 Hero Elite skis up here. We've actually got 3 Rossignols on the right side of the wall. I'm kind of excited to get to that Forza 60 because that's an interesting conversation. But of those 3 Rossignols over there, this is definitely the most aggressive. And it's actually kind of interesting to directly compare the construction to the MT, which we'll talk about in four-ish skis. So this ski has a beech wood core, so it's a pretty dense wood core, and then there's a full sheet of Titanal. So not 2 sheets of Titanal, but we do get a full tip to tail and full width sheet of Titanal. And then we get line control technology, so basically that vertical strip that runs down the center of the ski, that's the piece of technology that I was referring to that's really intended to help with counterflexing, and the benefit of that is just more consistent and more predictable edge contact with the snow, which thus turns into more control and more confidence as a skier. I think it's like sometimes you can say these things out loud, you can explain the technology, but what is really the benefit to the skier? And I think when you really analyze it, you just feel more comfortable and more confident because you're predicting what the ski is going to be doing more accurately. 3,380 grams on the scale here.
These skis usually don't fall over.
I know, the flat tails. And then, like you were saying, it's the same price as that Thunderbird. It is $1,200 or $1,199.95. And I've always really, really liked this ski. We're not much wider here, but I don't really know why. I've always thought that these start to like feel slightly more like a narrow all-mountain ski. They're definitely squarely in the frontside world, but they're just like, I don't know. There's something about them that allows for a little bit of variety in your skiing style, and maybe it's the tip width. It is a nice wide tip. I don't know. I can't really like point to anything specific of why I feel that way, but I do.
I mean, it's like we had that conversation with the Forza 70. It's like, this just feels more all mountain oriented to me, even though it's
right.
Certainly a frontside ski.
Well, and that's a good point. And in a lot of ways, this is kind of like a narrow Forza 70 with a longer turn radius. Yeah. Like there's a lot of similarities in the shape. Still pretty stiff here. This is a pretty darn aggressive ski, dense wood core. There's a sheet of metal in there. It is an 18-meter turn radius, so one of the longer radii that we've seen on this wall. And then, there's that Forza similarity. This is probably the most rocker that we've seen so far.
I love that.
And it's not a lot, but you have to look at that because it does really change the feel of the ski and its capabilities. it's just going to plane out over softer snow more easily than a lot of these skis, those claw skis that we've been referring to. But the tail is still pretty flat. But
Yeah.
it's super fun to ski. It makes beautiful kind of long GS-style round carves, but there's been footage over the years of different people skiing this ski at our ski test and on Rossignol media shoot days and other test days that are making kind of more shorter skidded turns. And I think it's pretty cool. You know, the tip shape allows for that, slight amount of rocker. It kind of lets you like start it more easily. And then the long cut, like you were talking about somewhere, and allowing it here probably,
G9, yeah.
letting you break free from the carve, you absolutely can do that on this ski. So it loves speed. It loves being skied really fast, but it actually allows for, I'd say, a little bit more creativity in your skiing style than a lot of skis up here.
Yeah, I agree.
So super fun. I also really like, personally, I like look bindings. I don't love the plate system, but I really like the binding.
Yeah.
So selfishly, that's a fun thing for me.
It's fine. You're not going to get any arguments from me if you're looking at stuff like that.
Look bindings.
Yeah. Next two skis here,
Are
pretty
essentially the
interesting
same.
conversation. I mean, we didn't talk about this before, but if you want to take the SC and I can take the Orea and
Yeah,
we
you want
can
to just do them
do
together?
them together, I think that would...
You're going to kind of have two skis in a row to talk about if we're doing it in that
That's
sense.
fine.
But, okay.
You know, these are the same skis, different top sheet, different price too. You've got the Laser SC over there. We can kind of talk about that one from a base construction perspective because you're going to...
Shout out to the graphics.
Yeah, I think these are...
I love it.
Very
just
crisp.
black and white. They're
Yeah.
just like, I love it. As boring as that might be.
That's, I mean, you don't need to be flashy like Rossignol, but...
Like, so many flashy skis.
Yeah. Well, they go fast.
I just like the white.
Your SC over there, built with a poplar and beechwood core, so dissimilar to SX, but more similar to WRT over there. So poplar and beech stringers, 2 sheets of metal. We do get their torsion control technology,
Yeah, we get
flex torsion control. Sorry about that. So that is the wave cut in the tip of the ski, allowing for proper articulation. So rubber dust throughout in the adhesive layers. The Laser SC is 72 millimeters underfoot. So it kind of provides a nice balance between SX at 70, and then I like to think of the Montero AS as kind of the next level in terms of width. Stockli really crams a lot of skis into a short window, a tight window of widths. I mean, they have something like every 2 millimeters.
Well, because that's like front side to powder
Yeah,
for Stockli.
right, 2 millimeters. But it is...
I'm kidding, but only slightly.
But it's telling of their priority as a
100%.
company.
Yeah.
And they are really focused on making something for every carving enthusiast out there,
Yeah.
which is, I like thinking about that. And I used to think that way too, like when mogul skis went from like 60 to 62 underfoot, I'm like, no way, that 62 is going to be quick enough. You know, like that.
Sure.
That was my mentality back in the day, so I'm sure that someone still has that mentality in terms of on-piste carving skis. What do you got there? 1,915 grams, so under 2,000 grams for a ski with 2 sheets of metal. And like we saw in the SX, we're starting to see a little bit of tip flex in these things, and just kind of opening up the ski's ability to initiate a carved turn. While being pretty stout and stable throughout. I'm not sure if mine top sheet is enough to have the measurements on it.
You want measurements?
Yeah,
I got measurements for you.
Okay.
123, 72, 104, 16.2 meter turn radius, and this is a 177.
Yeah, great. Like, you think about the SC.
Right where you want to be.
Right where you want to be.
Love it. I've always loved skiing this thing.
Yeah.
I was hesitant to say that that's my favorite laser because I've always had a huge appreciation for this ski.
I was a little surprised, honestly, when
that
you
I said that.
Yeah.
It's the park.
Yeah.
It's the park skiing. It's the park frontside ski.
And then the Orea here is same construction, different top sheet. They even call out that they have bamboo inserts.
It's a beautiful ski.
I don't think that that filters into the core at all, but yeah, just a different top sheet.
And did you talk about the price?
I did not talk about the price.
$16.99, right? Yeah, $16.99 in normal Laser SC. That's ski and binding. That's the ski and binding combo that we at least have on our site.
Yeah.
And then that's $200 more to $18.99. So you're essentially getting like a limited edition or a special edition cosmetic for $200.
Yeah. And then this skier, again, we're kind of looking at someone who's, you know, progressing past the intermediate level, you know, an advanced skier who's looking for, you know, something to help them progress their carving, I think is the intended audience here, but certainly the high end is right there. There's not too many people that are over skiing a Laser SC in its intended purpose. I think that if you're looking to open it up and make just super fast GS turns, then yeah, there might be a little bit of a limitation there in terms of the flex, because it is more intended for that multi-turn use.
You know, one thing that I've found on Laser SC over the years, remember when we were way back here like an hour ago, and we talked about how it's very conditions dependent, and you, like even like a nice packed powder groomer doesn't feel particularly good. Packed powder groomer feels phenomenal on those, and it's not like we're considerably wider, but the the tip flex, its ability to kind of articulate, that like gives it the ability to work with the softer snow and still achieve like a really precise, rewarding feel.
You gonna ski moguls on these yet? Or are you still not interested?
I don't really want to ski moguls on anything up here.
Okay. Fair enough.
But I'll try. Do you want to do a what frontside ski does Jeff like the most in moguls video?
I mean, it would be easier to do which one do you like the least.
I'm down.
All right.
If somebody leaves a comment that gets 20 likes, do you remember the last time we brought that up? And now we have a downhill ski in our office that we're supposed to do a video on at some point?
Not interested.
I'll ski the downhill ski.
But yeah, I think that SC is a nice, a good option for people that like moguls.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. It's more subjective for me. Like I like width in the moguls because I don't ski them traditionally.
Yeah, but nice enough flex, light enough weight, and really nice overall composure.
And you know, I don't mean to like speak over you or steal your thunder here, but I actually think Laser SC is better in that softer snow than this ski.
Yeah, they're different. This Spitfire isn't going to be as supple in the softer snow, but I think that once we get to 74 millimeters underfoot and with a little bit more, I don't want to say power because they're close.
I think Spitfire might have a little more power.
More like we're starting to get to the point where like broken snow and softer groomers are in play here.
Yeah.
We're up to 74 millimeters underfoot in the Spitfire 74, $999.99, which I think we both kind of concluded at the start that this was a great value. Dollar to turn ratio is really good.
100%.
Dollar to performance ratio with this Excel binding system on here and with the double core construction. So this one does feature the single metal layer in the middle as well as the pulse core. So we do get those 2 layers of wood, 1 strip of metal, and then pulse core for vibration damping. Kind of the difference between this and WRC or Multigara is in that binding plate, whereas this one is pretty much all plastic. So there is, you know, just that slight downturn in terms of flex underfoot here, whereas those with the zinc will make it feel more stable and more sturdy. This kind of opens up the flex a little bit, so depending on your needs or wants, like this could be seen as a plus.
Totally.
So maybe a little bit lighter too, 3,300 grams, you know, with that binding. And this is a longer length too. What is this, a 180 and 17.1 meter turn radius. So longer than what we've been talking about, but also a longer ski. So you're still in that multi-turn mid-radius range. And what I think that we found about the Spitfires is that they have a really amazing amount of energy for having this more race-oriented shape. So actually this is like a similar build to the Steadfast 85, just this one is a lot sharper and more angular. So whereas that Steadfast 85, you can kind of mix it up and be a little bit more loping in your turns, a little bit more rocker and taper in that ski. The Spitfire 74 is certainly more high octane, like you really want to kind of get after it on this ski. And we kind of found, or I'll speak for myself and you can chime in, but just instant connection. Like that was my big takeaway from getting on the Spitfire 74 the first time is I feel connected to this ski, both on the snow and spiritually, I guess. Like
it's just, I would say it's surprisingly intuitive.
Yeah, it felt more like an extension of my boots than a lot of other skis.
I would agree with
in the
that.
Frontside realm. So like big shout out to the Spitfire in that regard. And I felt the same way about the Steadfast. So I think the construction has a lot to do with it. This just takes up that carving power and kind of race-like performance to the next level.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to use the word harsh. Yeah. But I do think that's the right word to use in comparison to the Steadfast.
Yeah.
It's like, not necessarily in a bad way. The Spitfire is just a little bit more harsh.
Yeah, and that is footprint dependent. So not really anything going on here in terms of taper or rocker. Lots of positive camber underfoot. So you do feel that energy built in, and then a much flatter and more squared off tail than what we see in Steadfast.
Yep.
And this is the same footprint or same overall ski as the Spitfire 80, just narrower overall.
Yep.
But I think that this is a really good option, especially when we talk about the price, in terms of being a good choice for someone who is looking for that top-end front-side performance and character without spending $1,500, $1,600, $2,000. So this is kind of your best option at this point, I think, for high performance and value. Yeah. So it's a really good choice for that ski.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Next ski is our second Rossignol Hero Elite. This is the Hero Elite MT. I talked about how the construction is kind of interesting, the differences between LTTI and MTTICAM. I
had a hard time in the ski test video getting out all the letters.
It's a long name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, that LT had a beech wood core. This ski has a poplar wood core. That ski had a full sheet of Titanal. This ski has a partial Titanal beam. This also has line control technology. And then in this ski, we also get the carbon alloy matrix.
Yep.
So a little bit less metal. You know, they're putting some extra carbon in here. So you're getting a very performance-oriented ski, but it's just a little bit less aggressive than the LT, which I think, like, you know, we talked about kind of opening it up to not all mountain, but a little bit more variety in that LT. And then this kind of like takes that and runs with it, being a little bit wider and not quite as aggressive. 3,150 grams on our scale here. Actually pretty impressively light, I would say. You know, it's one of the lighter skis that we've seen for ski and binding. And it is a softer flex pattern than a lot of the skis that we've seen up here, but it's not like an unsupportive flex pattern. There's still plenty of ski. It's more just allowing for more variety, and that's kind of that's the name of the game here with the MT. MT refers to multi-turn, and it really does let you make a multitude of different turns. A little bit more rocker than that LT, I think, just barely by like a centimeter or two, but you know, we are starting to see like some real tip rocker.
Yep.
So it's worth noting. Still plenty of camber underfoot. And then still like pretty much a flat tail. None of these skis really are gonna show us much in the way of tail rocker. And then this ski, now that I know that the dimensions are underfoot, 74 underfoot, and we've got a 15-meter turn radius. And with that flex pattern, with the little bit of tip rocker, you really can kind of play around with bending it into a shorter radius, letting it run into a longer radius turn. Although there's less metal in this ski than most skis on this wall, I would say this is plenty of ski for most self-identifying advanced and expert level skiers. Like we've put a lot of advanced and expert skiers on this over the years, and I can't recall anybody getting off of it and saying that's not enough ski. I for whatever reason, recall lots of footage of Brad skiing it and really enjoying it. And Brad's more of an all-mountain skier, spends a lot of time in the trees.
Yeah, woods guy.
Yeah, and I just think it's really cool that they had a really good connection, like Brad and this ski. And I think that's very telling of this ski's performance and the intricacies of how it feels within the frontside category. Like you don't find Brad on frontside skis very often, but you put him on a Hero Elite MT and he rips.
Yep.
So I just think that's a great way to think about this ski, is it is opening up the variety, capabilities for different turn shapes, capabilities for different conditions, even terrain. You know, as I've mentioned several times, I don't want to take these skis into moguls, but somebody could. And I could see somebody like Brad doing it really effectively.
Yeah. So I feel like we see a lot of these in the wild.
Tons.
Like this is a very popular ski.
Well, it's $949 too. I don't know if I mentioned that.
No.
But there's a lot of value.
Yeah.
$949 ski and binding, it's pretty darn good.
Yeah, we see a lot of these at Stowe, and people are using them all over the place.
Yeah.
It's definitely a really good option for people that want a frontside carver, but also want to ski all mountain.
Yeah, I agree.
You could say the same for this next ski here. Oh boy, I'm getting tight.
You'll make it.
This Kastle MX74. So this is a new ski for Kastle this year. Like the rest of the MX series, this is the narrowest one. Basically, they changed the wood core and the hollow tech in these skis. So they're now using Infinicore, which on paper looks a lot like what Blizzard does with True Blend, where they're varying narrow stringers of beech and poplar into these skis, and just kind of fine-tuning where the beech goes for added stability and where the poplar goes for increased mobility and general ease of use. We do get 2 sheets of metal. We also get their pre-preg fiberglass laminates in here, and those just really add like a consistent level of stiffness to the ski, and you can really feel the energy in all of these MX series of skis. But the 74 really takes that front side, just snap out of the turn to the next level.
Yeah.
There is just an uncommon amount of energy and rebound in this ski right here. And then they balance that with their new Holotech. So Holotech Evo, basically the metal stops, it kind of goes under where the Evo, where that Holotech shape goes. So it just makes the tip of the ski a little bit more manageable, and we are seeing more of an all-mountain flex and style in this MX74. If we weren't just going by the numbers, this is one of those skis that could have easily been in our wide frontside category, but based on the numbers, it fits here, and I think that that's an important distinction because you are seeing similar characteristics from the wider MX series of skis in terms of an all-mountain format, and then get put into a narrower shape.
Yeah.
And similar to how we had the Declivity 82 from Armada in the wide frontside category instead of narrow all-mountain.
Yeah.
They're making these skis at a certain width for a reason, and that's to bring an all-mountain kind of build and shape into a narrower category with this MX74.
Yeah, I do agree that it arguably belongs more in that wide frontside conversation.
Yeah.
I raced on it though.
Like a slalom course, right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like the shorter
Paneled
course,
slalom.
paneled slalom.
Yeah.
Did great.
Yeah.
I think it was like my best finish of the year. I think I was like 5th.
3,224 grams here in the 178, and we're at a 16.9 meter turn radius. So yeah, you can open it up, you can let it run.
Yeah.
You can ski bumps on these, Jeff.
Sure, fine. I love the way it engages a
Yeah.
turn because there's like that suppleness
Oh, boy.
to the flex.
I was not expecting that from our front side category. That is normally
There's just
twin tip
There's
reserved.
just a lot going on over here.
All right, I'm just gonna move them over real quick.
But no, it's super fun, and I like it. I skied it, and I think the footage is all from this day. I skied it in some soft snow too, and like that flex in the shovel
Yeah.
and being a little wider, it worked really well in
Yeah.
those situations.
Yeah, no, I'm impressed. It is $1,299 for ski and binding.
John, it's like, it's not that bad.
No, it's not that bad. And we've also noted that all the MX skis are similarly priced.
Yep.
So pretty cool stuff from Kastle. Taking a new core construction, new hollow tech, and really bringing it into kind of a modern carving / all mountain format.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I think we can talk a little bit about rocker on this one too. Slight tip rocker.
Yeah, there's slight tip rocker.
Very fun.
And it kind of corresponds just with that extra flex in the shovel.
Yeah. And then I'd say even more of an early taper conversation. So a vastly different tip shape than we've seen so far, but not a very different conversation with the tail.
There is
Metal,
slight tail rocker.
Slight tail rocker, but no taper at all, and just that chunky metal insert in the back that's going to finish a turn with authority.
It does have definitely the most all-mountain shape on this wall.
Yep. But really fun skis.
Yes, I had a blast on those things. I think they look great too. I love the black holotech.
Yeah.
Next ski is the Atomic Redster Q9. We've talked about a lot of Atomics so far. I think this is the 5th.
5th out of 6.
Yeah, this is the 5th Atomic that we've talked about, and I would say the 2 that we're going to end on here are different than the 4 that we started with. The 4 over on my side of the wall, they're all narrow. They all feel very precise. We talked about how this X7 is a little different and how it's kind of more intermediate focused. But this ski starts to, just like that MX did, it starts to lean ever so slightly towards all mountain, which is interesting because it is the narrower version of the Redster Q9.8.
Yeah.
I think that section of the Redster line is a little bit confusing because the Q9 and the Q9.8 are built the same with 2 different widths, and then the Q7 and the 7.8 are built the same with 2 different widths. And I don't know if it is super easy to understand, but that's kind of what's going on here. So this ski, it's actually built similarly to the X7. It's a little bit more aggressive. We get those things like ultra wall in this ski, but it is a power wood core, not the ultra power wood core. But then we get a full sheet of metal in this ski, and then we're back to RevoShock S, and we're back to kind of the stronger binding system in this ski as well, if you wanted to kind of compare it to that ski. And you see it reflected in the price as well. This one is $1,049.95, so we're kind of back more in that X9s world, although X9s ticks up $50 too. And this ski, definitely stiffer than what we saw in X7. We're back to a pretty darn stiff flex pattern, 3,200 grams on the scale, and then I think the shape is kind of the more interesting thing. Not much tip rocker up here really, but it is like a nice wider shovel. This whole section of the ski up here to me feels so much more all mountainy or like
Yeah.
daily driver. You know, like we were talking about that over here as like, they don't really feel like daily drivers. This feels like something that could be skied every single day with no issue.
I mean, that's like Q, that's a difference between like Q
and
versus X or
Yeah.
S or G.
Yeah. 75 underfoot here, and this is a 14.2 meter turn radius. This is the 176. So a little wider, short turn radius. I'd say like a flex pattern that can be manipulated a little bit, and then like a more friendly shovel shape. And it just gives this ski a little bit more of a, I mean, it's a front side all mountain ski. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I ski groomers 95% of the time, but I don't want a harsh feeling carving ski. I think that's where this ski really works well. I'd say this is another one that you don't see many of. I see a lot more Q9.8s. I also see more like X9s. This one just kind of gets lost in the fold a little bit, but it's a phenomenal ski.
And it's, I would say like that's more comparative to like the Thunderbird R13.
It's
in
that's
terms
a
of
great
like,
comparison.
so they're not on the same wall just because of 1 millimeter of width.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would not discount that as this being even just because of the binding and the overall feel like a little bit more. I felt like that's a little bit more race-like, and then the Thunderbird is a little bit more all mountainy. But that was my impression.
I kind of agree with that. Mostly just in like their flex.
Yeah.
And how they feel. Like the vibrations, whether you feel them or not, the responsiveness. Yeah, I'd say this feels like a little bit more racy.
That one
Thunderbird.
I just remember that one feeling narrower than 75.
Oh, see, that's interesting because I wouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Because the shovel to me feels like wider than a 75 ski would have.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. Different experiences.
Subjective ski performance.
Yeah. And what do I have now?
You got a Forza?
Oh, I got a Forza. Cool. Forza 60. This is another mid-70s underfoot ski from Rossignol.
I'd say another one that has a lot of value.
Yeah, so this Forza 60 at $899.95, ski and binding. Yeah, I think that there's good value here too. Very similar construction to the MT, but with a shorter turn radius and a little bit more of an all-mountain feel overall. So we do get their poplar wood core, Titanal underfoot, and then carbon alloy matrix throughout. So we are seeing a little bit different, more energy and a little bit more pep with a shorter turn radius. 3,280 grams in this 179, and we're at a 14-meter arc. So 75 underfoot, 14-meter arc, and this is the longest length that they come in. So anything lower, anything shorter than this, and you're shortening that radius even further.
Yep.
And that was kind of the big impression that I got on these skis, is that they really wanted to turn.
Yep.
But because they were a little bit more flexible, and
there's like there's a sweet spot for speed.
there's a top end for speed that I found.
I said it in the friendly, politically correct way. There's a sweet spot for speed.
It's a spot.
Yeah.
But anything below that or within kind of that zone, and these make just extremely rewarding and energetic turns.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about that with the Forza 70, although everything about this ski is a little bit rounder. So when we look at the shape of that 70, it really flares out more like your heroes here, whereas this has a little bit of early taper. The 70 is just like very dramatically wide in the shovel, and this one is just more all mountain oriented, just a slight amount of tip rocker, really not a whole lot, but a lot of camber underfoot, and then where you can kind of see where this early taper happens in the tail of the Forza 60. In the 70 it does not, so very similar to what we saw in the Hero series of skis. But yeah, just a slightly rounder overall profile in the Forza 60. And that opens up the performance level to a variety of skiers, whether you're learning how to carve turns all the way through kind of, I would say, a lighter, advanced or expert skier that just wants a good blend of precision and technical ability. So it's not going to have the highest performance ceiling reflected in the price and the turn radius. It's just, you can't let it run too much.
You know what I found and I mean this as a positive aspect of the Forza 60, something that it's really got going for itself. Compared to the 70, the taper in the shovel of that ski lets you like manipulate it a little bit more, where like the Forza 70, I just kind of feel stuck making carves. That ski actually allowed you to like feather your turns and make like kind of slarvy turns here and there, which I thought was kind of fun because it like, just like it's a little bit more dynamic than most skis in this width range.
I think that's one of the reasons that I like that Forza 70 in the shorter length.
Yeah.
It's because I like how it sticks you in a turn, but I don't like how if it was longer.
You just get going too fast?
Too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that that's a distinction as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think your value is great. I think the range of skier is really wide here. And at 75 underfoot with this type of energy, you're able to kind of unlock some more all-mountain adventure. So
yeah, it surpassed my expectations.
Yeah. I have never skied it in this length. I've only skied it in the 171.
Yeah, we like both had it.
And that was too short for me.
That makes sense.
So I would like to try this length at some point this year.
We can make that happen.
Yeah, probably.
And then the next ski that I'm going to talk about is kind of an interesting one. I would say this is a bit of an outlier on this wall. Is it the only ski that doesn't use metal?
I'm going to say yes, but I haven't thought about it 100%.
I'm pretty sure it is. So this is the Head Shape E V8, or is it E Shape? No, Head Shape
E V8.
E V8. That's I was hesitant. I couldn't remember if that.
There's metal.
I thought so, like because that's, yeah. There's a sheet of Titanal in that ski. Anyways, so this is the Head Shape E V8, which is interesting up here. Like I was saying, it's the only ski that doesn't use metal, and it's basically a system narrow core. So it's a Karuba wood core, and then we get graphene, and we get carbon, and we get energy management circuit. That's kind of coming more from like Supershape original and stuff like that. But it is not built like a traditional frontside ski. It's built more like a lightweight all-mountain ski, and then just like repackaged in a frontside shape, which gives it a pretty unique personality, I think. This is also one of the few skis on this wall that I think is really good for an intermediate.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that might be the sweet spot for this ski. Its best application is for an intermediate, and intermediates are spending most of their time on groomers. If you're not, you might want to. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you know, like you spend a lot of time on groomers as you build your technique, as you learn different turn shapes and different techniques and all those things. And this is a really, really good ski for somebody who is still spending most of their time on groomers, but maybe wants to start thinking about doing other stuff. So it's pretty light. It's 2,560 grams ski and binding on our scale here. This is the 170 centimeter length, so it's not like it's short. As is true with cores, it's light, but it's not soft. You know, I think cores are stiffer. This ski has a little bit more roundness to its flex, which I think is nice. And its shape, like I was saying, is very front side. So there's a ton of camber. There's really like not any rocker in this ski by any means. Not really in the tip and definitely not in the tail there. And then it's a 13.2 meter turn radius, and we're 75 underfoot. So, you know, if you have existing knowledge of head cores and what happens with this construction, ton of quickness, ton of responsiveness, ton of energy, put that in a narrower ski with a 13-ish turn radius, and the thing is like ultra reactive.
Yeah.
It's so energetic and it's so responsive, and it's like it responds to skier input immediately. And I would venture a guess that some skiers, if you're in that intermediate level, you might get on this ski and not like it for your first run, because it might do things that you have never experienced before, and that's inevitably probably a good thing. It's like the type of ski that would highlight faults in technique and promote really good technique.
Yeah.
And like if you're doing things that you probably shouldn't, this ski will definitely let you know, and it won't feel that great. And if you ski with good technique and you weight things properly and you do everything quote unquote correctly, then this ski is going to become very rewarding. There's definitely a limit on the top end. You know, it's not like, doesn't have the vibration damping of these metal clad skis up here. You're not going to want to push it too hard, but that's fine. That's not really what it's intended to be, and Head makes lots and lots of skis that you can push as hard as you want. So $799 here, ski and binding. I think it's a great intermediate tool, or like a expert skier that's getting a little bit less aggressive. Because if you already have the existing technique, then you don't have to worry about that, the downsides or what it will do if you do something bad on it.
Like if you want the feel of a short carved turn and you're not prepared to put in a lot of work or get it up to speed, like that ski does it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell if like some people do want the ski to do the work for them. They just want to either roll it up on edge or push forward in their boots a little bit, and that ski will react easier and more quickly than anything else here, specifically because of that reactivity of the carbon and the shorter radius.
Yeah. It's almost like if you try to put too much into it, that's where it doesn't like it.
Right, and that's where I struggle with a ski like that or the V10.
Because you're so big.
Yeah. So I can get it up on edge, but my weight pushes through it and then it starts to bounce.
So not a Bob Brettonwood's retirement ski, but potentially a Jeff Brettonwood's retirement ski.
Yeah, I think you'd have a great time on that, cruising blues.
Me too.
In your 60s and 70s.
I'll probably still be on a twin tip in 60s.
So 80-year-old Jeff?
70.
Okay.
74.
Really we could have ended on any of these skis. I think that these last few 75s really kind of fall into that same category.
Pretty similar, yeah.
Skis that are really easy to carve on. They don't have the same high end in terms of stability, power, and performance that we saw kind of in your Stockli world over there.
Yeah.
WRC, G9, Multigara. Those really have the higher potential, the higher ceiling. That doesn't mean that this Q7 isn't going to be a much better option for more skiers. In reality, so many people should be on something like this Q7 from a progression and just an overall skiing satisfaction standpoint. It is lighter and more mobile, but still has the same footprint as the higher end G9. So we've seen a couple of skis like this that share either build and shape or footprint. So this is kind of the build down from the Q9. These atomic names are difficult.
You got to be on your game and remember all the Redsters.
2,700 grams in the 176, and we're at $799.95. So similar price to the V8 here.
Yeah, three $799 skis up here, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, and really what you're getting here is that 75 millimeter waist. The carbon Revo shock technology, so just adding a little bit of energy and light weight to the ski and just making it more accessible for skiers that are progressing. Yep. So intermediate through a lighter weight expert skier is going to fit great on a Q7. It's one of those ones that if you're an intermediate skier and you're wanting to buy your first set of skis and like you want something good, that's where this comes in handy. And you don't want to spend $1,000.
Yeah, buy it and grow with it for years and years and years.
Yeah. I mean, we talk a lot about kind of 76s as being a great place to be for frontside / all mountain, but really we're missing out on 1 millimeter of width.
just about 76.
Yeah, it's right there.
Might as well be 76.
So you're really kind of getting that same type of versatility in kind of a resort setting. So I think that that's important, and just really mobile. 75, 14.2, so same as the Q9. You're able to make, I would say, shorter, quicker turns easier on the 7 than the 9, but you're giving up stability at speed and a little bit of that race-like feel that I was talking about. And then the binding system is different as well. So
we're back to this binding.
Yep, back to that one. More plastic, less metal. You see that reflected in the weight, and as well, that's going to equate to some stability. So anytime you're beefing up that underfoot zone, even with a binding system or a platform like that, you are adding stability underfoot, and that's fine. And if you don't want to work too hard, then the 7 is going to be a lot better. But yeah, not a whole lot to talk about in terms of rocker profile and taper shape. Just a lot of camber underfoot and really nice energy built in. And I think that pairs well with the carbon. I think that when you're kind of seeing carbon take the place of metal, you're just adding a little bit more zip to the mix.
Yep.
But great intermediate level ski.
Totally. We've had like several, I would describe them as intermediate level skiers on that ski in the past 2-3 years, and every time somebody gets on it, and sometimes you have to like twist their arm a little bit because it's like not the cool atomic.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to ski a bent 100, and you're like, no, somebody's got to ski a Redster Q7.
Yeah.
And then like every time somebody does, they have a really good time and make like really pretty turns. And I think just there's a lot to say about that.
Yeah, no, I like ones that kind of sneak up on you like that, or like the Steadfast 85 is an example for me where you're like, I'm hesitant, and then you get on it and you're like, that was really satisfying and very rewarding.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of these skis over here that might not get the press of the upper end ones are actually really valuable. Yeah,
don't overlook them because they don't get the cool factor.
Yeah.
If Black Crows made them, you'd all buy it.
They'd be sold out for years.
Anyways, I think that was a really fun conversation. I enjoyed it.
Yep.
In fact, it was a little bit more engaging than I thought it might be.
Well, you just got to get the ball rolling, and it starts to flow. Some
really fun skis over here.
Yeah, but as I said, like my comfort level dissipates as you get closer to your side.
No,
like,
I understand.
This is my sweet spot here, the 72 to 75 range. I just, for my size and my lack of race training, 70 and below is a challenge for me.
My sweet spot's right here.
You found it.
No, I like a lot of the skis up here, but I do think that like, for me, it's kind of like this range that I really, really, really enjoy.
I'd have a hard time passing up most days
Spitfire.
on a Spitfire.
Yeah, I hear you.
I think that's a standout for me, but...
Yeah, for good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was fun. That's probably the narrowest alpine ski comparison that we'll do for 2025. We could do a cross country and go narrower.
Yeah, really narrow.
Anyways, we've got powder left on the men's side, and then we may like break down categories a little bit differently. Like we may do a freestyle twin tip comparison. We've got a bunch of women's skis to talk about at some point.
Yep.
And then we've talked about doing binding comparisons, which if anybody made it this far through the video, congratulations, you're almost 2 hours in. And let us know if you'd be interested in a binding comparison. I can only imagine the answer is yes, because I think that's the most requested thing we get.
It's pretty consistent.
Yeah. So it's been what? When was the last one? 2020?
It was a while ago.
Yeah. So it's been a few years since, and I think I was solo for that. I don't know how we're going to set it up, but we'll figure it out and we'll do a binding comparison.
Sweet.
In the meantime, let us know if you have any questions, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.